Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Board Game Buffet podcast, episode number 88.
I believe
Sounds
it's
right.
80. Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah. My name is Dean,
And this is Graham.
and Graham, as you can tell, I'm in a different hotel room now. I'm traveling back home. One more day to go until I hit my door. Much to the, I'm sure, chagrin of my family. I think the idea of me coming back was exciting, and now the reality is set in that Daddy's going to be home, and there's a new sheriff in town. Although I'm sure it'll be a short-lived visit by the sheriff before I'm out the door again. But yeah, I'm in St. Louis. We needed to get this recorded, so giving it a recording before I get back on the road. And I'm going to stop off at Miniature Market and pick up some games I pre-ordered. And thanks to Lance for the heads up. They have a big ding and dent area, so I'm sure I'll probably drop a few more coins there before I leave. But as I've been driving over the last few days, I just keep thinking about all the stuff I want to get done or want to get played. But I also, I think I just need to really organize my games and really, maybe not this year, but next year, with some face-to-face gaming or whatever, or face-to-face conventions. I need to call some games out of the collection. I have these epiphanies at times driving of, you're not getting any younger, Dean, and there's only so much time left. And one is, what am I going to get played? The other is, I don't want to, I want to get my affairs in order. And I know it sounds, morbid, I guess, to think about that as, only going to be 52, but still, do you want to leave that burden, the burden to my family to not sell them, because they won't sell them. They'll just have to carry them to the dumpster. And I would rather just try to get rid of them now or whatever. But it's not even that. It's just, there's just too many. There's too many that I'm never going to play again, or I don't really want to get rid of ones that I haven't played, but some of them I'm pretty sure I just don't need. I'm just never going to play them. So yeah, it's a part of my drive's exciting because I get all excited about what I want to do, and then the other part's depressing because then I start thinking about what the things I need to get rid of and how much I have, and just too many material things. I'm not into the Marie Kondo thing, but I definitely am into the kind of the downsizing of my life in general. That sounds bad. I'm not getting rid of my family, but just like, do we need that much living space? Do we need that, that many personal items?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, if people are having the video, I'm kind of pointing at, I have a shelving unit here, which is one of the Calyx shelves. And it's actually a double one. So you can only see one half of it. That is full of games that I'm getting rid of. And that is a fraction of the games I want to get rid of. This was kind of the very first pull of it. But I'm kind of in the situation where you are when I'm looking at my games going, I have too many games to physically play. I do not have enough time to play all these games. And I was talking to a listener of ours, Ian, from the UK, and we got talking about curating our collections of why we bought the games in the first place and where we want to get to, of what type of games do you want to keep? Because I don't know whether your collection kind of grew like mine, but at the beginning, I was trying to buy games to say, oh, I think my wife Lella's going to like this, or I think Megan and B are going to like this style of game, and I think maybe Dean and I will like to play this game. So I'm buying all these games thinking that other people are going to like them. Now, the games I'm buying for myself, so not my reviews games, but the games I'm buying for myself are, I think I'm going to like this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm no longer concerned that much about making sure that if a game I am kind of questioning whether I like, but I know that maybe Dean's going to like it, those are the ones that are probably going to end up on that shelf there. Games that if I don't like playing it, unless you love the game, like there are games I'm going to keep that Lella loves that I'm kind of lukewarm on, but I'm no longer buying games thinking, oh, I think Lella's going to buy this. I'm buying games now because I want to try the game. If Lella likes it, that's fantastic. I mean, it's going to be a keeper, but it's an interesting kind of flow to the collection, the collecting for your collection,
right?
Because at the beginning you're buying everything, then you move into the mode, I think, of I'm the game supplier. I'm buying games for my game group, hoping that my game group's going to buy them. Then you get to the
Right.
point when you kind of look at your shelves going, I have way too much. I'm now going to condense that to the games that I personally want to get to the table, or games I know that my main gaming people love. If no one loves it and I just think it's okay, then why is it in my collection?
So are you saying that you're not willing to have a shelf in your house with just games that you think I might like?
I have a shelf in my house that is games that I need to give to you that are technically yours.
Well, there is that too. And I do, I think I probably, well, I don't know. I've sold a lot of the ones that you gave me a while back. But yeah, I probably have about 15 or 20 of your games, maybe
Yeah,
at
like
least 15 of them.
yeah, I think I've got
Uh,
about 10 of yours that I need to get to you, because we were going to see each other at the next con and kind of exchange these games. Now they're just kind
right.
of sitting there going, one of these days.
Well, I know the games that you have in mind that, and I do want them. I'm not sure you want any of your games back.
No, I don't want my games back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of, and we've talked about this before, and I think we've been through this cycle before in our hobby. You know, I did really good for a while. I called like 150 games and combination base games and expansions about 2 years ago, and then without any in-face conventions, that didn't happen this year, so I couldn't really get rid of a whole lot. I mean, I've sold a few online, but I don't have the time, and I really just don't want to put forth the effort to sell one game at a time to one individual and have to go and get it shipped and everything else. And then people, they want it for nothing, which I don't necessarily care about. But at the same time, you know, I understand it's $15 to ship a game, but that is the cost of doing business when you buy a game. I mean, I pay for it all the time, but yeah, I guess I'm still in the point where because Amy is not deep into the hobby, so I'm still looking for games that I think will appeal to her. You're kind of past that with Lola. I mean, you kind of know what she likes, and you've got enough games that she already likes that it doesn't matter. So I'm still kind of in the beginning stage of that. I don't really worry as much anymore about like will Nolan like it, or do I think Reagan would like to play? Because I think Reagan only plays games because she feels it's her duty at times to do it. And I know what Nolan would like, but right now he's just not into board games as much as he is into miniature games or video games, or D&D or whatever, which is fine. I mean, I think a lot of that will change over time, as you get older, sort of thing, because we've all been in those other phases.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where, it's a 30, 35, 36 hour drive. So I do a lot of I do a lot of thinking, and I get some brilliant ideas at times for the podcast. And then I go through the it's like the 12 stages of the hobby as I'm driving. I'm like, I get depressed about how much I have, and then I think about games that I want to get. And I mean, I'm never going to stop buying, but I think it's like when you get older in life, hey, well, the kids don't need as many Christmas presents, or as they get older, you don't buy, it's more about, let's go on a trip, let's build the memories. And I kind of feel like it's almost at that point, like within my phase in the hobby of, I want to build the memories, and that kind of translates into, I want to play more of this game, or I want to play more of this game, or I want to really, I want to bang out a bunch of, war games or whatever the case may be. And I'm not worried about trying every brand new game. I mean, there's still new ones I want to try, but I'm not, since I'm not, we're not doing reviews per se. I'm not doing review videos. I don't need to, waste, maybe waste isn't the right word. Don't need to spend a lot of time on games that probably aren't ever gonna, appeal to me anyways.
yeah, yeah. I still get games that I know probably aren't going to appeal to me,
Mm-hmm.
just because of because of the reviews I do for the Dice Tower. That there are games I will play specifically knowing that I'm going to get this game. I'm going to get rid of this game after I get it, buy it. I'm buying it for the review, knowing that if I wasn't going to do a review, I probably wouldn't buy it in the first place.
All right.
And I think if I wasn't reviewing, I think my game purchasing would be drastically curtailed. On average, I buy 4 to 8 games a month. And of that, I'm probably buying 6 of those because I know that I can do a review on them. They may be on the borderline of this game looks okay, I'll buy it just to do a review on it.
Mhm.
I think if I took the review piece out, I think I'd probably be down to buying 1, maybe 2 games a month, maybe. And honestly, in the last 6 weeks, there hasn't been a game that's come out that I've been interested in buying.
Yeah, they do seem to come in bunches.
Yeah.
I think so. I kind of looked back so I was out of town for 4 months, and between games I purchased locally, games I purchased online, and then I bought that little batch of games from the guy who was doing a virtual flea market on BGG. It just happened to be out in California, so I picked those up. So I think it averaged out to probably about 7 games a month that I ended up purchasing when I was out there, which I don't know if that's any different per se than if I had been home. But I do know I think my tendency to buy games escalates when I'm on the road, just because like, well, I'm not playing as much. I have more time to basically surf the sites and put stuff in the cart, which this last year has not been good because I've been on the road a lot. So I think that's why, again, while I sold 150, I have probably replaced all those 150 with new purchases over the last, 2 years as well. But I would like to also think that of those 150 that I've purchased recently, I feel more confident in what I'm buying that I at least may like it. And I may not 100%, but there are a few things I bought that I'm like, yeah, I don't, just sounds kind of cool. So let's see how it pans out.
So with you being on the road as much as you are,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that your gaming time is limited, like you don't have a built-in game group like I do. So I can
Right.
almost guarantee that every week I can play once, twice a week. What is it that keeps you buying the games? Like you said, oh, that kind of looks cool, but are you also counterbalancing that? Like, do you look at a game and say that looks really cool, but if I only get 3 weeks of the year to play like at cons or whatever else, am I going to play it? Therefore, I'm not going to buy it. Or do you just say it looks cool, I'm going to buy it? That hopefully one of these days someone's going to show up my doorstep saying, I've lost complete amnesia. I just remember that I love playing board games 24 hours a day, and you're like, come on in. Have I got something to play with you?
Okay, so I just told you driving across the country, I go through these different stages. I don't need you adding to the depression stage or well, one, I'm anticipating that maybe not this year, but like next year, 2022, that my work schedule will not be as bad as it has been the last couple of years. And it's mainly been that bad because we've had so many people opt out of going out to the field to work. So it's put more work on us. So I'm hoping that changes. I don't know if it will or not because, corporate America, once they figure out that they can get a little bit more out of you, then, they'll do it. So that's part of it. The other part of it is that I anticipate sometime this year that we will be moving to a location that will put me closer to not only where I know there's a game group, but Dan lives and a couple other people that I generally used to have to drive an hour to. I'll now be within just a few minutes of. So if I am in town, maybe that'll increase. And there is a games shop there that has board gaming. Again, I still got to be in town to do it. It'll also put me back closer to being, around Nolan. So depending on his schedule, I could probably, get some games played. And it also puts me 2 hours closer to Toronto. So,
Yeah,
it's
and
all right now. I think that would get me, what is it now? About an 8 hour drive.
it's about an 8-hour drive. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would put me about 6 hours. And I could technically get it even closer. I could get it right up on the Michigan Canada border, but that would put us then about an hour and a half from Nolan. And right now we kind of want to stay a little closer. And we don't know where Reagan for sure where she's going to want to go to school. So where we're going at least gives us options.
Yeah.
But technically I could live anywhere I want. I mean, I could move to Indy and there's some great game groups in Indy. I could move to Columbus and there's awesome cabs is there. Or I could move up to the little tiny town that's right there on the border and put me within about 3 hours of Toronto.
Yeah.
Um, but the winters would be bad, I think.
That area, yeah, that where you're thinking of moving, um, the winters there are worse than the winters we have here in Toronto.
Right. So I guess in my mind, I'm always thinking that it's going to get better. Like just over the horizon, I can just kind of see that all this gaming is going to take place. I don't know if it will or not. And eventually, I mean, I got to be able to retire someday, right?
Yep.
So, which means if I can still see and I can still, move stuff around the board, I should be able to get more gaming in.
And I think one of the things that's kind of brought it into light for me is the no strings attached that Lel and I do on a Friday night on the Dice Tower doing the live streams. Because I'm trying to do a new game and an old game, and playing those old games, you kind of realize just how many good games you already have in your collection. That
Mm-hmm.
you've moved on to get the newest game, but forcing yourself to say, I'm intentionally pulling an old game off the shelf. And you go, man, these are really, really good games. Why don't they come to the table anymore? They don't come to the table anymore because we're always chasing the next new game.
Right. Yeah, and it's like when we do leftovers, or even when we did last episode, we did if you like this, you may like that, and we're talking, giving three alternatives. Those three alternatives generally make me think about, man, I really want to play that game again. We talked about, I think one of the games I had in there was Transatlantic. The last episode, I'm like, it's not a great game, but I still would like to play it again. It's fun enough that I'd spend some time, checking it out again. So that's one of the good things, and maybe that's one of the things that, for me anyways, keeps me going in the hobby. I think like anything else, I mean, we're always, like you said, we're chasing that elusive unicorn that, if we don't get, we're going to feel all bad about. But then again, there are other games that come out that people seem to love that I have no desire. Like I know nothing. We talked about Stardew Valley when we were playing the werewolf game yesterday
Yeah.
with some of the players, and I know nothing about that game. I know nothing about the IP, and it seems to be all the buzz. But I would never go. I just don't think I have any appeal. Now maybe it's just a really great board game, worker placement game, so maybe it's worth the play. But if I saw it set up on a table, maybe I'd sit down, but I'm not going to seek that game out. It doesn't have any appeal to me.
And this is a bad thing to say on our podcast, though. It almost seems to be if you disconnected from all the board game media, like Twitter, Facebook, and you just said, I'm not going to watch, I'm not going to listen to any more board game stuff. I think I'd be very happy with the games I have now. Even if I pared it down to 300 to 400 games, that would be playing one game every day for a year. And
Mm-hmm.
if you just kept on recycling that, every year you're playing a new game every day and you're not going to be playing every day, then I think I have enough now that I can say, I never need to see another board game again. I have enough good older games that I want to get back to the table that I could live comfortably for many, many years without buying a single one. But
Yeah.
like you and like our listeners, you are quite often listening and consuming board game media because you do want to see what's coming out. You want to see what other people say. What are these other people like? It could be new, could be old, but it's a game I do not have. And I want to hear about more things to try and expand the experiences I have in board gaming. But I think for a
Yes.
lot of us that have, 500 to 1,000 games, you probably have enough games already. You don't need any new games, but there's that one that's just coming out. Sounds so cool.
Yeah, because it does. I mean, it's hard to say any game is unique nowadays. For someone to say, "Oh, it's got such a unique theme," or "It's got a unique mechanism," for that to really be true now is pretty hard to do. But it's the old adage of you don't know what you don't know, so you can't miss something if you don't know about it.
Yeah.
Think about before you ever got into board gaming, your life was probably still pretty good. You didn't know anything about a hobby board gaming or whatever. Then you discovered it, but now you want to immerse yourself in it, and that's natural. I mean, I'm sure there are people though that are consider themselves board gamers that don't consume social media, from the board gaming aspect. They don't watch videos, listen to podcasts, but they'll pick up the occasional game when they go into Barnes and Noble or whatever the case may be, and they're still board gamers, and they're still in the hobby, but they're just not insanely into the hobby.
Yeah. And maybe that's because you and I are insanely in the hobby when you're buying, 100 plus games a year, that I kind of look at it and think could I just step away from it all? Could I just say, I'm not going to do any more reviews? I'm not going to do the podcast anymore. I'm not going to consume the media anymore. I'm just going to take a step back and just enjoy what I have. But then I think, I don't know if I could or not. I'd always be interested because it's a hobby, because it's an interest. You are interested to see what's happening in whatever you're doing. It's like if you enjoy a sport, it's not like I'm going to stop watching sports this year and just going back and watching all the old baseball games. You're still going to be watching the new baseball games because you're still interested in the team. You're still interested in what's happening.
Right. I think so. I've thought about this before. If I wasn't doing something on the creation side in the hobby, podcast, whatever, and I was just playing games. Personally, I don't know how long I would continue to be in the hobby. I don't, it wouldn't be like an immediate, like I'm stopping, I'm never playing another board game, but I think I would naturally probably just kind of wean myself off of it because a lot of the motivation I have for playing games is because we're always talking about stuff. You know, where it's fresh in the mind, and you know, conversations we have will pique my curiosity. Oh, I really want to try that. That sounds cool. And I think it would probably be natural for most people that, you know, as you start to kind of play less, well, you're motivated to play less. And so now I'm only playing, you know, maybe I'm only playing 2 games a month, and then things get busy and I'm not, you know, I'm not listening to podcasts and hearing people talk about great stuff. So now I'm maybe playing a game once a month, and then pretty soon maybe you're not playing at all. And I could see that for me happening because I will tell you historically, any hobby I've ever been in, I go into it full speed ahead. I want to immerse myself in it. I want to learn everything about it. I'm reading magazines. I'm, you know, whatever. I'm consuming something, and that keeps me going because I'm interested in it. I want to learn, you know, besides playing the hobby or whatever it is, I want to learn more about it. I want to learn stuff behind the scenes. And I think, and I've gone out of hobbies. You know, there was time when I was huge into, you know, collecting comics back in the day, or you know, miniature gaming. Um, and I think I kind of over time you lose interest, but it's also a matter of if I'm the less you do it, the quicker the easier it is for you to lose total interest in it. And I could see that. I could see that happening. Um,
So you're talking about some hobbies you're no longer in, like comic books. So there's a couple hobbies I have that I've stopped doing basically because I didn't have the time.
mhm.
But I still look back at them and think, if I had the time, I would love to pick that up again. Do you do the same thing with like, are you done with comic books, or are you done with miniatures gaming and saying, I'm no longer going to go back do it? Or do you look at your collection saying, oh, I really want to reread whatever, and I want to see what's happening with whatever you used to collect? Like, do you think do you stop it because you completely lost interest in what you're doing? Or is it more like myself when I said, I got to pick and choose what I'm spending my time on because there's only so many hours in the day. This one's going to be put aside, and we're looking at board gaming now. But I'm still
So
looking back at my old hobbies going, I really enjoyed doing that. And I would love to be able to have the time to go back and pick it up again.
well, so for me, so and let's okay, so let's talk like high school. You know, high school, college was very much into war gaming, whether it was board war gaming or miniature war gaming. And it became almost exclusively miniature war gaming, and I did that for, you know, up until probably, well, I don't know, what is this, 2020? So probably still up until maybe 2014, 15. You know, I was still doing a lot of historical miniature war gaming, and really the only reason that stopped was because of the, you know, well, one, like you, I mean, there's a time commitment, and I was starting to enjoy the hobby board gaming more and more because that was easier to get to the table. I didn't have to paint, I didn't have to build terrain. It wasn't like an all day event to have someone come over and play a game where you know, you could throw a game on the table and just, you know, a board game and be done. You could play two or three of them and get a variety, and I was still getting the same enjoyment. It was still the strategy, it was still the camaraderie of just playing the game. So that was kind of where the transition started. I mean, I used to take miniatures on the road with me and just paint in my hotel room at night. You could, you know, got a lot of miniatures painted that way over the years. And while Nolan would probably prefer that I was still doing the miniature gaming aspect because he really enjoyed it, it just was, you got to pick and choose. I mean, neither one of them is cheap. So, you got to allocate money, you got to allocate time, and then you have to factor in your enjoyment. And while the costs are probably the same and the time commitment is probably the same, I was getting more enjoyment out of board gaming than I was miniature gaming. And that just could have been because it was stale. It could have just been, whatever the reason is. But I would go, I still like the miniature game, but I'm also in the process of selling off a lot of my miniatures as well. Like if I go to our local CincyCon, they have miniature gaming, they have board gaming. I haven't played a miniature game there probably in a couple of years. Whereas before when I would go, I'd split, like I'd play like one miniature game, then I'd go play a board game, bounce back and forth. Now I just don't. It's not that I don't have the desire. It's just not my number one choice. Comic books, on the other hand, I have no desire to go back to collecting comics. And when I say collecting, that's all I did. I rarely ever read anything I ever bought. I bought it, I bagged it, I boarded it, and I because for me it was the collecting aspect, which yes, I know that should be a shock to you since most of my games are in shrink that I would do that. But there were only a few comics that I ever read, and that was one when I was a kid. I didn't. I mean, I had comics. I didn't have a ton of comics, and the Avengers were always my favorite. So when I got into comic collecting, I just wanted to do a complete run of the original Avengers series, 402 issues, and I'm pretty close. I've got less than 20 that I need to get for that run. But of those, I probably have read every one of those. But all the other stuff that I've purchased, I've rarely, like I said, maybe 5% have I ever read of anything else that I've ever purchased. And so it was a matter of purchasing it because I needed the complete run. I had to, I didn't want to break in it, or I just really like the art. I bought a lot of comics just based off of the cover art, because I just thought it was really cool. And we've talked about this before. I do think that being a collector of any type is a form of psychosis. I mean, there is definitely something going on in the brain that gives you that. I don't know what it is, dopamine, endorphins, that rush of the purchase, knowing that it's fitting in there exactly where it needs to fit in. Oh, this is issue 14. Oh, it's sliding in perfectly between 13 and 15. This is awesome. And that's what it was. But I have no desire. Like I've been so long out of it that I don't even know, like, the artists or half of the characters or the companies. And and monetarily they're expensive. I think now they were expensive enough, $2.99 sometimes for a cover price. um so yeah, I don't miss that at all. And I would really, that's my main focus right now, besides culling some games. I'm really trying to cull a lot of comics.
Yeah, it's funny because although you and I have about the same number of games in our collection, you have more, but I'm not that far behind. I think percentage wise, I have played a, a huge, much larger percentage of my collection has been played.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And I think like we would often talk about the shelf of shame or shelf of opportunity if you want to be positive about it. Out of my 900 and something games, the number of those that I have not played at all is probably under 20. Now, some of them, a lot of them I've only played once, but so for me, it's not the collecting. Like I actually
Right.
um, I do want to play the games I buy, and I'm buying the games because I think I'm going to play them. And I used to collect comics as well, and I was smirking because the rule when I was collecting comics is you always bought two, one to bag, one to read. So I've read, my comic collection is two long boxes and that's it. But I've read every single comic in there, and I've
Hmm.
played almost every single game I own. And that side is DVDs. I've got 700 DVDs. I've watched every single DVD I own. So although I do amass an awful lot of stuff, for me, it's not so much. Part of it is collecting, but it's collecting so I can use it, not collecting just for the
Right.
collection's sake.
Well, again, if I wasn't on the road as much as I am, I mean, I would play games as much as as much as I wanted to. I don't think I'd play them every day because I don't think I have that. Um, I know you know how it is. I mean,
Yep.
if you play games, I just don't think I'd want to do it. But I definitely would play a lot more games than what I'm able to play. I'm not collecting them just because I want to collect them. I really do want to play them. Comics, on the other hand, was just something that I think that snowballed and got way out of, I remember back, when at the height of it, I'd have my pool list at the local comic book shop. Because you could just go in like, oh, this is coming. Yeah, sure, give me a copy of that. This, taking them off. I'd go in monthly to get well, I used to go in weekly and get my pool order. I mean, I was probably at one point in time, I was probably having 150 different comics pulled a month, maybe 200
Oof.
comics pulled. I mean,
I think that's my
it,
entire collection.
yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, you said you have two long boxes. I don't even know how many long boxes I have because I started going to short boxes on top of that, but I probably have, I don't know, 25, 40, maybe long boxes. And
Wow.
then probably, I don't know, another 40 short boxes. And some of them are, like I said, some of them are a lot of, the good Silver Age that we grew up with, and some pretty long runs of them. So if I spent the time and wanted to piece them out individually, yes, I could probably make a decent chunk of change. And then a lot of them are just ones that are, only 15, 20 years old, which probably aren't worth much more than what the cover price is on them. And if I got half my money back on those, I'd probably be happy, that sort of thing. So I guess I'm fortunate enough where I don't need to sell them. Um, so I don't have to discount them to get rid of them. But at the same time, when you talk about wanting to downsize your life and you realize you've got two, what are they, 15 by 20, 15 by 30 storage units, plus another 10 by 15, I don't know, whatever it is. You're like, and you start looking at that stuff and you're like, okay, so for 2 years, that stuff has been in storage.
Yeah.
How much of it do I really need? Because not only do I haven't I touched it, although I go to my board gaming storage unit quite often to pull stuff out if I can find it. But even at where we're at now, so I've got an area in the garage that's inside an enclosed area that's got it's got like a shelf of games. I've got a closet in the place that's just mine for games that are on the shelves, and then that's where all the boxes get shipped to me, get stacked in there until I get home. So I've done, and plus I've got basically a Kallax shelf in the one area as well. And those are just games that are probably just all new since we've been there. And that's stuff that I want to do, that I want to play. And I think about all the stuff that's in there between miniatures, just my stuff, miniatures, and comics, and hero clicks, and all that. And I'm thinking, I mean, I would probably be on suicide watch if I actually calculated how much money I've spent on all that stuff over the years. But it's just too much. It's too much. I'm so to the point in time in my life where I don't want to give it away, and I don't want to take a total bath on it, but I want to get rid of it, because then on top of that, I'm paying $200 a month for storage units for stuff that I don't really need.
Yeah.
So, you factor that money in too. It's a vicious cycle.
We had a storage unit. Speaking of downsizing, so this room I'm in here, this is my home office / media area. I'm kind of sitting very close to the wall. So that wall there is about 22 feet long. And basically from where I'm sitting back used to be full of just stuff. We used to have the plastic shelves from IKEA, just kind of from here all the way to the white wall back there, just full of stuff that you couldn't, like, you were having to squeeze through all these little things. And we decided a couple of years ago to downsize, because we also had a storage unit. Not only do we have everything here, we had a storage unit. And we came to the same conclusion that we're not using the stuff down here. We weren't using the stuff in the storage locker. So we got rid of the storage locker and basically threw 95% of it out, saying we haven't looked at it in 2 years. Main reason why there was so much stuff in here, because on the other side of that wall is another room that's about the same size. And that's where all my main games are. And that's where my son's PS4 is and all that. But that is my game storage area. And that has, if you think this wall here is 22 feet long, and that wall there is this room is basically mirrored on the other side. So it's half the basement. I have a 22-foot long thing of nothing but Kallax shelves, and all on the back, Kallax shelves, full of games. Plus, I got this one here that I'm getting rid of. There's so many games I have that have only been played once that I need to get rid of. So I'm now at the point when I've gone through all the easy stuff to get rid of, like stuff I wasn't using, and now I'm down to I need to go through my games and just keep the couple hundred that I really want to keep. And I know you don't want to give games away, but I'm to the point now when most of these games here, well, everything on the shelf, I'm selling for $10 or less Canadian. And some of them are free. Some of them are like $2, just because I want to get rid of them. The fortunate part is, like you said, shipping.
Right.
If I was a store, there'd be no problem getting rid of these. If I marked everything here from $7, $10, whatever, I could sell them. The problem is I have to say, people, you either have to meet me somewhere, or you have to pay the exorbitant shipping rates.
Yeah, and so for two things on that, and then we'll move on to other stuff, would be, when I say I don't want to give it away, I mean, I'm more likely to discount something just to move it. So, I mean, it's kind of like giving away. It's not necessarily the money aspect of it. So, like, if I take it to a convention, I mean, I price mine to move at a convention. For the comics aspect of it, I've contemplated just taking a short box, cramming in as many comics as I can, and knowing that these are not going to be collector comics that people are looking to make a killing off of, and just saying, okay, there's, I think, a short box I could probably get 200 comics in at least, and say, okay, it's 200 comics in there, $75 for the entire box, and just kind of do it as a, nope, you're not gonna pick through it or whatever and pull stuff out. So you could take the entire box or not, and maybe put it on Facebook for like the local, the local little marketplace things, or even $50. I mean, yeah, I'm still taking a bath on it, but I'm getting rid of it. I'm getting some cash, and I'm getting space back at that point in time. And the other thing I would say on that, I don't take this the wrong way of oh, woe is me, I've got too much stuff, or I've burnt so much money on stuff at the time that I don't care about money. I don't want people to kind of get the wrong impression that we're trying to say, like, oh, I have 22 feet of Kallax shows and I have another, what I'm saying? I mean, like, it's first world problems.
Oh, yeah,
and if
definitely.
and if you only have 20 games, I mean, God bless you. I mean, there's something beautiful about that. But just know that you can control how much you want to invest in this hobby, not just monetarily, but space, time, and everything else. So don't feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses. And that's one of the downsides, probably like in any hobby, but in this one in particular, with social media and the way people show off everything they have, there's always that, oh, I got to go get this game. Oh, I got to get this game. Oh, someone said something great about this game. Now, if you, Ian, for example, the gentleman from Britain, he said he went out and bought Parfume based off what I said about it, but he bought it because he thought his wife would like it, and that's why I bought it. That's great, because you have a specific reason to want to go out and buy that game. But don't ever feel like, whether it be, well, not you're going to listen to us, but if you're, us or anyone else, just don't get sucked into that. I have to have it, the FOMO thing of this hobby.
And I will say one last thing. Yes, I have Kallax shelves along one wall, but I've been doing a podcast for coming up to 7 years now. And for 4 years, the primary focus of that podcast was to review games. And then I started doing video reviews. Part of that is I have to buy games. If I didn't buy games, I couldn't do reviews. And I enjoy doing the reviews. So for me, it's the hobby side plus the need to review. If I didn't have the need to review, there's no way I'd have all those games. There's no way I would ever say I could justify to myself having that many games. But I can easily justify to myself because I can say, oh, I'm going to review this. I'm buying it to review. I'm not reviewing it. I'm not buying it because I think I'm going to love this game. I'm going to be a permanent thing to my collection. It is, I'm buying it to review it, and then I need to get rid of it. My biggest problem is getting rid of it.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, And for those people that, that don't know Graham, the sheer fact that he has that many games is amazing because I've been to numerous conventions with him, and I don't think I've ever seen his wallet come out of his little carry-all to purchase anything. Like when he reaches in there to take out his American currency, his fingers are like kind of twitching when he has to pull out a $20 bill.
It takes me so long. I gotta take my shirt off to unzip the
That's
interior
right.
thing to get the wallet out and have to figure out the combination to open up the wallet. Is
Yeah.
just too long.
Well, and that's why, you know, for the longest time, I just thought you were really paranoid about being in the United States and getting mugged. And I realized, no, it's just his way of not spending money. He doesn't want to have to undress to be able to get it all out and open it up. So it's a good plan. Although I'd say you could probably get rid of a couple of those Calyx shelves and, you know, put a nice little bed in there for me with a nice little headboard and, you know, make your game room the, uh, the dean room.
There's like I said, it's a large enough area down there that the Calyx shelves are just around the outside, just along two walls. So that third wall, you could easily put a bed there. Now you'd have to fight Gareth for the space. That's where his PS4 is.
I think I could take him. I haven't seen him in a while. He might be taller, but
Oh, he's definitely taller.
I think I've got a few pounds on him still. So he's probably what
What,
six two and
Yeah,
120.
probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think I could take him. I have a low center of gravity. I got to be able to move him. But you know me, I don't travel anywhere without my air mattress, so I can deflate my bed every day if that's the case. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to move us on to the first bites. I do want to mention one thing. So when this episode drops, which will be the 22nd, there'll still be, I think, at least a week left on a Kickstarter. It's a Kickstarter for Stellaris Infinite Legacies or Legacy. It's being put out by Academy Games. I briefly talked about this game with on one of the coffee talks with Uwe Eichert from Academy Games. I don't know anything about the IP, but I do know this game is what interested me when he was talking about it was it's a legacy style game. It's set on the IP Stellaris, the video game. So it's a space 4X. But the way it was described was that you don't need to have the same players over and over again. If someone drops in, drops out, their kind of their civilization, I think goes like into decline maybe. So we'll continue to have an impact on the game. So I thought that was interesting because it's kind of like that Oath game that's coming out by Leader Games, where you can play it with four people, you can play it solo, you can play it two player, and you don't need to worry about having the same consistent group. So if you like Stellaris, if you're into a legacy game, if you like 4X tech trees, that sort of thing, check it out. They do have a Kickstarter. It's done really well. I know it's over $1 million right now. I don't know what it's at recently. I haven't looked in the last few days. So it seems to be very popular. I don't know if it's because of the mechanisms. I don't know if it's because of the IPs, but check it out if that's something that might interest you. It's not a cheap game. I think you can get the base game for like 110 as the cheapest pledge level. I personally have not backed it just because I'm more interested in the mechanisms than I am the IP and the theme and everything else. That's just not, you know, theme wise, it doesn't do a lot for me, but I definitely want to check it out because it sounds interesting how it's all being put together.
Cool.
All right, Graham, why don't you take us over to the first bites? I don't have any first bites just because I've been traveling the last few days. I had plans to do it, but I just was tired and decided not to. So the first bites are all on you, sir.
Okay, so I have two small games for first bites. The first one is called Aliens Perfect Organism. This is put out by Gen X Games, I want to say. I think it's Gen X. And Aliens in particular is probably one of my favorite movies. I remember seeing it when I was a young teenager for the first time, and I was just fell in love with it. I think I have about 4 different versions of it. You know, the Blu-ray version, then the Blu-ray box set, and the director's cut, and everything else. It's like I said, it's one of my favorite movies. So, but I'm always a little leery about IP-based games. So I got Aliens Perfect Organism, and I kind of looked at the cover and kind of went, I'm not so sure about this. It's a relatively small game, you know, kind of thin, narrow game. And then I started reading the rules of it. And the rules are, it takes place on LV 426 is where the first where the movie Aliens takes place. And each person plays an alien queen, and you're trying to build up your hive. So it's not the Marines' point of view, it's the aliens' point of view. And each person plays the alien queen, and basically whatever queen is left standing is the queen that wins. The art in this game is horrendous. The components are horrendous. It's almost as if the company went out to bid on the IP and said, okay, we have, we're gonna make a game, we're gonna make a card game even before they had the IP, and we're going to allocate, let's say, $10,000 to the development and components and all that. Then they found out, oh, look, Fox is selling off IPs. Maybe we should buy that. So they went to Fox, and Fox said, well, it's going to cost you $9,500 for the IP. So they kind of went, here you go. Oh, great. Now we only have $500 to make the game, get the components, and get it done. The game itself is, I don't want to sound overly negative, but if you've ever played a game just been mad at the game that this exists, this is the way I feel about this Aliens Perfect Organism. It takes my favorite IP and turns it into an absolutely horrendously garbage-filled game. I was mad halfway through playing it, and the people I was playing it with looked at me and said, "You don't like this game very much, do you?" So, on your turn, you have three options that you can do. You start off with your queen alien, and you have a handful of cards. Your hand size limit is 8, I think. Yeah, 8. You have 3 actions. One action you can do is draw a card. Another action you can do is play a card. The third option you can do is discard a card. And there's the whole evolution of the alien creature. So if you have to play an egg first. Then if you have an egg and you can defeat one of the humans, because there's a colony out there, you can go and basically if you defeat the colonists, you can take them and put them into your hive. So if you have an egg and a human in your hive, then you can play, alien, the egg goes to facehugger in person then becomes a xenomorph. So this is kind of life cycle. You have to play a card, you have to play an egg, then you have to play a facehugger to get rid of the egg. Then you have to have a facehugger and a human in your thing, so you can discard both of those to put in your xenomorph. Then if you have 2 xenomorphs, you can then trade them in for, it's called, I think, an expansion card. The first person to get 2 expansion cards out is the winner. There's only 8 expansion cards in between the 2 decks, because there is an aliens deck and there's a colonists deck. The colonists you're only going to go through when you kill the colonist. There's 3 colonists out. You can say, I'm going to go kill this colonist, and you put them into your hive, and then you draw a new colony card. So there's only 8 of these cards in the deck. We were playing a 3-player game. I had 4 of them in my hand. The other 2 players, Lela and Jason, both had one of them on that they already played. So there's 6 of these cards essentially in play, and there's only one left in each deck. They couldn't win until they finally were able to kind of cycle through the deck to finally get that last extension card. Because I wasn't going to give mine up, because it's like, I'm stopping you from winning just by holding them. My problem is I had 1 xenomorph and I had to make a second xenomorph, but technically I had 3 xenomorphs. I needed the last xenomorph so I could trade 4 xenomorphs in to put down my 2 extension cards to win the game. I needed an egg card, because you need to have the egg before you get the facehugger. I had a facehugger card in my hand. I could have easily killed a colonist. I had the other xenomorph in my hand. I had all the extension cards. I could not draw an egg card. We went through the deck twice, and I never got a stupid egg card. That was 20 minutes of me doing this on my turn. Draw, 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 done. Comes around to my turn, draw, 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 done. And because it takes you an action, you can't draw a card if you're at your hand limit. You have to take one of your actions to discard a single card. So on my turn, I'm like, discard, discard, draw 1. Nope, I didn't get it. Your turn. Discard, discard, draw 1. Nope, didn't get it. I can now, my next turn, draw, draw, draw. Didn't get it. Next turn, discard, discard, discard. It's like, oh my God, this game is horrendous. The other thing you can do is you can actually attack someone. You can either attack the colony to kill one of the colonists, or you can attack another person's hive to try and kill their queen, and then that's another way to eliminate them. What you do is you add up all the strength from your xenomorphs and your queen, and you say, okay, I'm attacking you with 12 points of damage, Dean. There's nothing you can do about it. All you do is, okay, 12 points of damage. I'm going to allocate 1 point of damage here, 1 point of damage here. And I'm going to kill off the human or the facehugger because they're worth 1 hit point. So I can discard that to get rid of one of your hit points. Once you're finished that, then you automatically counterattack my people. But whatever your counterattack score is, you get to add +1 to it. So unless I know I'm going to be able to kill you, you are going to probably be doing more damage back to me than I can do damage to you. So let's say I attack you, then you attack me back. You are now severely damaged because of my attack. The other people haven't been attacked yet, so guess who they're going to attack on their turn with no fear of reprisal. If I've almost killed you, then the next person is their perfect thing is to then attack the person that just attacked because that's the last thing you do on your turn is you do the attack, which means you are going to be hurt, which means I can just very easily math it out and say, I've killed you. I can attack you with 10 points of damage. You can only absorb another 5. Therefore, you can't counterattack, which means there's kind of no choices here. There's no die roll. There's no random card flip to say, oh, I'm going to be doing this thing. I can just look at your cards and say, I can see you're going to do 3, 4, 7, 9 points of damage. And I'm going to do 12 points of damage. There's nothing you can do to stop me. I'm going to kill off all your people. So I'm just going to do it.
Well, you should like that. You don't like randomness. So that's a perfect style for you.
But it got to the point when Jason attacked me. And I did my counterattack against Jason. I was the next player and kind of went, well, if I attack you, because I had 3 xenomorphs out and they do a fair bit of damage, like I can kill you. But because we couldn't get those stupid other extension cards, he had nothing else to do on his turn. It's like, I have to attack somebody. And no matter who he attacked, I was going to kill him. So you either do absolutely nothing on your turn, which is, gee, that's fun. Or you basically said, I'm sacrificing myself just to end this game. And that's what it was. He sacrificed himself to end the game. He attacked me. I counterattacked. On my turn, I attacked him. I wiped him out so he didn't get a chance to counterattack. But then Lela says, okay, I'm going to attack you. You're dead. Okay, game's over. This game I would rate like a 1 or a 2. It's barely a game. They spent all their money on the IP and didn't basically just said, remember that game I was talking about, 3 weeks ago, in a development meeting that you said, well, that needs some work. Well, we're not going to do any work on it. We're just going to take that initial idea and put the really crappy art on it, and we'll just sell it because it's got the Aliens name on it. This is a game that if you saw on the shelf, just take it off the shelf and dump it in the store's basket, the garbage thing, because no one should be buying this. This game should not exist. It is just bad.
So 2 things. Do you think like whoever owns the IP to Aliens, I don't know if that's the movie company, the creator, whatever, do you think that those people ever go back and look at what the final product is? Or do you think they don't care? Hey, I sold it. You gave me your $25,000 and whatever. I don't care what you do with it.
I honestly think the amount of Alien stuff that's coming out now, I'm assuming whoever owns the rights to it needs the money, because they seem to be giving it out left, right, and center. There was the Spanish game a couple of years ago called Haley's Hope, which was based on the Aliens. There's this game, Aliens Perfect Organism. There's the Minis game that's just come out with it. And I think there's another Aliens game coming out. It's like, why all of a sudden within 2 years are all these Aliens IPs popping up? Because someone needs the money. And if that's the case, they don't care where it's going.
All right. Mechanism wise, it sounded a little bit like, I don't know about mechanisms, but just the way it played with never being able to end the game reminds me of that game that you also hated, Heir to the Throne, where it was, you're trying to do your family lines, and it had some take that where, well, I'm going to make I think it's like you could put impotence, or there was something else, inbreeding, or like, was it I don't know, whatever it was, but it was that kind of thing where you could never the game just never would end because you're constantly having to get the right combination of cards. And then someone, as soon as you get that, someone's going to slap you down and, put whatever on you. And I know, I mean, you absolutely hated the game because it was one of, you talk about a game that lasted way, 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 way too long for what it was that one. And that's when you're talking about it, that's the only thing I think of in my mind was, I know how much you hated that game. So I can only imagine how much you hated this one.
Yeah. Because this one I spent half the game doing nothing. And Lella and Jason spent half the game doing nothing. And it just got to the point when Jason said, we need to end this. It doesn't make any sense for me to attack you, but it's the only option I have left because I'm not getting the cards. Because I told them halfway through the game, I am stopping you guys from winning. I said, I've calculated it. There's one card in each one of those decks. And the colony cards take a long time to go through because you're not killing a colonist every round because you don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing we're doing is going through the aliens deck. And guess what? If I get the extension card, I'm taking it because it's the only way I can stop you from winning. And I said, the only thing I need to win is an egg card. And Jason and Lella said, the only thing I need to win is the extension card because we're all like, whoever gets the next card that they need is going to win. The problem is Lella was drawing all the egg cards and I had all the extension cards. And it was just sort of, okay, so fine, attack me. But because I have my alien who does my queen does, I think 3 or 4 points of damage. And each one of my xenomorphs does 3 or 4 points of damage. You can look at me and going, man, you're going to slaughter me on the counterattack. But there's nothing else for me to do. Do we just go round after round after round after round of people just going, nope, that's not the card I need. Next turn, nope, that's not the card I need. It was just horrendous.
Well, maybe that's why they put that type of mechanism in there because they knew the game was going to take forever and eventually someone would fall on their sword. But
yeah, it was not fun. This is one that I would say, sometimes quite often when I do reviews, I try to say, well, I didn't like it, but there's this thing that people might like about it. This is a game I would say there's nothing in this game that anybody should like because it's bad from start to finish. Just avoid this game at all costs. That is Aliens Perfect Organism.
So Bottle Cap Vikings, better or worse?
Yeah, Bottle Cap Vikings better.
Ooh, well, that says a lot.
Yeah, this Aliens Perfect Organism is probably one of the worst games I've ever played because it feels as if they had an idea of what they wanted to do and just said, put it in a box, put the Aliens IP on it and ship it out the door. And the developer basically is running in the office going, wait, don't I need to look at it? And they're like, no, it's fine. Aliens will sell it. We're just going to get our money back because of the Aliens theme. So just give them a box of rocks. I think even the box of rocks would probably be better than this game.
Yeah. Rights of Cthulhu, better or worse?
Better because there's more variety.
Wow.
Yeah. Like this
and the art's pretty good in Rights of Cthulhu. I will give them that.
Yeah. The art and just components in this game are terrible. The one other thing I should mention about there is a Newt card in the colonist deck. If you've ever seen the movie Aliens, Newt is the little girl who's kind of left on the planet, who's been existing by herself, and Ripley, the main character in Aliens, kind of takes her under her wing. So whoever pulls Newt from the colonist deck gets the Ripley card, and you can't get rid of it. The only thing that will get rid of it is if someone else draws a Newt card. So if Dean has it and I draw the Newt card, well, Dean gets rid of his Newt card and I now have Newt. There is one card in the deck that allows you to transfer Newt to another person, but you have to give it to the person on your left. You don't have a choice. The other thing that's in the colonist deck is the Angry Ripley card. When you turn over the Angry Ripley card, who's ever holding Newt is going to get hit for so much damage. The thing is, again, components, there is a card that you put beside the game at the beginning of the game that has Ripley on it. And there's a little tracker on it. And I think it goes from 2 to 9. So she starts off at 2, and every time she attacks, it moves up. And so she's doing increasing damage each time. The scale goes from 2 to 9. The rules say whatever number she's on, add 2 to it.
And your max is 10, right?
Well, your queen has 12 hit points.
Okay.
And all the other things you have in your and your thing can also absorb hit points. But if your scale goes 2 to 9 and you're telling me no matter what number she's on, add 2 to it, so why isn't the scale 4 to 11? Why is it 2 to 9 and I have to do the +2? It's just stupid things like that.
Right.
But because you can't choose who you give Newt to, if you are, let's say you are really damaged, and I have Newt and you're the next player, and Jason is on my other side and he's about to win, I don't have the option to say, I'm going to give Newt to Jason who's about to win. It's like, no, Dean, I have to give Newt to you. I don't have a
Right.
choice. Why don't I
Yet
have a choice? Why can't
thematically,
I
it doesn't
say,
make any sense why you would have to go to the left.
yeah? And there's 2 cards in the colonist deck that allow you to do this ability of being able to change where Newt goes. So, it goes to the person on your right. Jason had Newt. I was winning, and I was holding all the cards, so they needed to kill me. Jason drew that card that allowed you to move it, and he's like, sorry, Lila, I have to give it to you. I don't want to give it to you, but I kind of have to give it to you. And then Lila got beat up by Ripley like several times in a row, and she spent all of her time trying to heal herself. But it's just, like I said, it's like an idea that they had and spent all the money on the IP and no money on development or components, and just said, okay, ship it. We'll rely on the IP to make some money back. It's just, from start to finish, it's a terrible game.
Well, much like the game that would never end, this discussion on it
Yeah.
will never end either. So, what's your other first bite?
My other first bite was a more enjoyable game called Money Bags from
It would have
Oink.
to be, I would think,
Yeah.
right?
This is an extremely light game that you could finish this game in 10 or 15 minutes. So if you know Oink games, they come in very small packages, and that's their kind of claim to fame, is having decent games in very small packages. This one's called Money Bags. There are 6 cloth bags, actually hemp bags in there, but they're small. You can only fit, like, let's say from your fingertips to the palm of your hand. So they're, fairly shallow bags. But it comes with, I want to say, like 25 metal coins, and they're really nice metal coins, and they chink a lot, and there's 1 diamond. Someone is the boss, and everybody holds out their bag, but you're only allowed to hold the bag with 1 hand at the top. So you're not allowed to kind of cup it underneath to see how many coins you have. You're just judging the weight by holding it from the top. So everybody's like, boss, give me some coins. And I have to distribute all the coins secretly to everybody's bags, including my own. And you're going to be doing this. You don't want to be going, okay, Dean, here's your 10. Here's, Gareth's 10 or whatever else. You're trying to secretly kind of put in so no one can see how many coins you're putting in. And you're probably going to do multiple rounds of this. So, did I put 1 coin this time and 5 coins the next time, or did I give you 10 coins up front? Once everybody has their coins, all the coins just distributed, we go around the table twice. On your turn, you can steal from someone else, or you can close your bag and said, I'm not going to allow, I'm out. I think I have the most coins. So I'm holding my bag. Again, you're holding it up by the top by 1 hand. And you say, Dean, give me your bag. I'm going to steal some coins from you. So I take Dean's coins and I secretly transfer some of his coins into my bag. It could be no coins at all, or I could take all of his coins. I give the bag then back to Dean. So again, Dean's holding it from the top, and it's very important that Dean doesn't kind of cup the bottom to kind of try and feel the coins. He just has to go by weight. Dean then has to say, I think I now have less coins than the thief who just stole my coins. So Dean would say, Graham, I think you have more coins than me. He's got 5 seconds to decide whether he wants to say this or not. If he challenges me on that, then we both dump all the coins onto the table and we stack them up. And basically whoever has the biggest stack is basically out. So you taking your bag back really have to say, how many coins did I think Graham took from me, and how many coins did I think he started with? So if you challenge me, you don't have to challenge me. You can just say, you can just kind of feel your bag and say, I'm not sure. Well, I'll just let it go. It goes around the table twice until either everyone has done this twice, or everyone is either eliminated themselves or closed their bag and said, I'm out. Then you just see who has the most coins in the bag from who's ever left. And whoever has the most coins is the winner. Whoever has the diamond, though, you stack your coins up and you put your diamond kind of pointy side up, and that counts as an extra height. So I may have less coins, but less coins plus the diamond could put my height bigger than yours. Like I said, this game is 10 minutes at most. but it's a lot of fun. Like it's not going to win the Spiel des Jahres for family game, but it was something that we played it once time and it's like, okay, let's play it again type thing. Very, very light. It doesn't have legs. It's not going to be a game they're going to be pulling out every week to close off your gaming session. But for what it was actually really enjoyable. It's going to be on my sale list, but I enjoyed my plays of it. And if I saw it at a con and you're like, well, we've got 10 minutes or 10 and 15 minutes before our next gaming thing. And I saw it on the shelf. It's like, well, why don't we play this? It's quick. It's fun. It's great for large numbers of people. And it really is trying to second guess people. If I'm stealing coins out of you, did I take all your coins, which would be very risky? Or did I kind of weigh our two bags thinking, okay, I think Dean has a couple more coins. I'm not going to take any coins from you, give it back to you. So hopefully you will then challenge me because I think I have less coins than you.
All right. That sounds cool.
And whoever wins the comparison gets all the coins. So if you call me out and you're wrong, I get all your coins to put in my bag. Now everybody knows I have a lot of coins in my bag. So the next person in line would then probably challenge, try and steal from me. So then again, how many of those coins am I going to take out of that bag to put to my bag? So I enjoyed it. Very light, very simplistic, but it just works.
Sounds like it might be a good game for holiday get-togethers.
Yeah, like it's very, very simple. Distribute coins and then go around the table twice because there is an ending to it. Like you're going to go around until the boss has had its second turn. At the end of the second turn, it's just anybody that's left in, let's look at the coins.
Yeah. And what was it called again?
This is called Money Bags by Oink Games. Yeah.
Oh, I might have to check that one out. I like the Money Bag or the Oink game price points are generally pretty good. So, all right, cool. Hey, before we do our top five, I just got to plug in my MiFi before it dies here.
Okay.
So talk about something to yourself.
Okay, let me go back about Alien's Perfect Organism again. No, it's funny. I find Oink Games, there's a couple Oink games I really, really enjoy, but a lot of them kind of really fit into that. They're a fun game that you're probably not going to keep forever. And Moneybags is just that. It's a game I really enjoyed, but I wouldn't say rush out and buy Moneybags. I would say if you have the opportunity to buy it or use that at a con or something like that, it's a perfect game for that. It's one of those games where it's just fun. It's just a light, fun game. And I think every once in a while we kind of get caught up on the, if it's not a 2 to 3 hour super heavy game, then it's not worth playing. But Moneybags is one that I would say is worth playing. It's one, I don't know how much it cost, but if it's one that was, 10, 15, 20 bucks, I would say it's worth it. And the coins are fantastic. Like they're exactly what you'd want from this game. They're very noisy. You can rattle your bag and you can hear all the coins, clinking around in your bag. So it kind of has that good feel to the game as well.
It sounds fun. I definitely want to check it out. I guess you probably couldn't throw that in your carry-on to get through the metal detectors, though, would you? If you're flying?
Probably not. No.
All right. So I thought we would do a top 5 list this episode, and I thought, while I was driving, what are some mean games that aren't necessarily designed or that you would think of that they're going to be mean? So I want to do a top 5 mean games, and specifically Euro games, not ones that are take that, not war games, not, a lot of 2-player games are designed to have a lot of conflict, that sort of thing. So top 5 mean games, Euro style. This is this is an even episode. So that means, I don't know who goes first. I don't know. You go ahead and go first.
That's where I went first last time.
Okay, then I'll go first. All right. So again, I tried to pick games where, they're all Euro games, and a couple of them the meanness is part of the design a little bit, but then the other ones are games where you wouldn't think, you can do some mean things in them, but you don't have to do mean things. You can certainly play the games without being mean and still have a chance to win. So my number 5 is a game. It's one of my favorite games, and that is Tricurion. Now, there's not a ton of mean things in Tricurion, but there are things that you can do in this game which will definitely set other people back. And the game of Tricurion is one where it's very methodical. I wouldn't say I mean, it's kind of like an engine building game. You're not triggering off a bunch of things, but you need to plan ahead. I guess it's more of a programming game, I would say, than engine building. But you need to plan ahead. Okay, I need these components to do this trick, and I need to get this trick set up to in this theater, and I need to put my links out, so on and so forth. So it's a worker placement or action selection style game with some programming in it. And some of the main things that you can do now, some of the things are, you're just going to beat people to certain locations. If you're going to, the area where you're going to buy more tricks, obviously the first person in there is going to get the better. It's going to be cheaper for them, because the second person has to pay, I think, more money, or maybe they get less actions, I think it is, because everything's based off timing, like how many actions you get, which is a combination of the space you get but also the worker that you put in there. So sometimes just beating people in there, like, you can look around the board and see where people are probably going to go, because on your turn you're going to secretly place down the locations that you want your specific worker to go to, and then everyone's going to flip them over. And if I look and I see, well, I'm the only person that's going to go to the market, then I don't have to worry about necessarily going there first. But if there's three people that are all going to the theater, well, then I want to make sure that, I want to get the best spots. So maybe I want to go in there, but I also want to steal spots from other people. So there's a little meanness there. One of the meanest things I think that you can do in this game is actually kind of very subtle. And that is, in order to do tricks, you need components. And in order to get components, you have to go to, I think it's the marketplace. I don't remember the exact term for it. Pretty sure it's the market. So when you go to the market, you buy the components that you need for your tricks. Now, you don't ever consume them, so it's not like you have to keep buying materials over and over and over again. But the more tricks you have and the varied tricks that you have, the different types of components that you're going to need. And there's like a little market area for things that are readily available, and then there's a little area which are things that can be that have to be special ordered. And in order to be able to buy any of those things, like I said, you have to special order them, but it's a little bit of a process. You have to spend the time and the action to do that. But what happens is that when you special order something, it replaces one of the readily available components that's out there. And what I have found is that if maybe I have all the components that I need, or maybe I'm not in bad shape, but I see that Graham, he just bought a new spell and he needs a specific component and it's out there. I could go and special order a component to remove the component he needs out of that marketplace, and then he's going to have to spend time to special order it back, and so on and so forth. And that in this game, I mean, it's only 5 turns, I think 5 rounds, but man, if you've got, I mean, the amount of actions that you can take is so precious. And like I said, in this game, if you don't plan well and execute well, you're dead in this game. It's a very unforgiving game when it comes to that aspect. So manipulating that market area can be a pretty nasty way of doing it. But like any other game of this style, you always have to weigh that option of, is it worth me punishing that person? Because then I'm kind of I mean, that action in itself may not directly benefit me. And so you're weighing that balance. Is it better for me to punish, or is it better for me just to do an action that, that's going to more directly benefit? And then going to the theater, not only jockeying for the position within the theater of what day you want the show to go off, because depending on the day, you get better rewards. But it could also be one of those where, depending on in the theater, you have your different theater days, which are going to trigger off different shows. And within the different shows, you are basically trying to slot your tricks, your magic acts into those shows. And even if you're not running that show, like you're not triggering it off, as long as you have a trick in there, you're going to benefit a little bit from it. You're going to get the rewards from it. And it's interesting sometimes, because you can actually benefit more so just for having more tricks in a particular show and not running it off and forcing someone else to run it off by taking the theater slot that is maybe more benefit to you. But you know that they have to go to the theater, and you know that they want to run a show, and they're going to run the show because they're going to get some rewards out of it, but they're also giving you a lot of rewards out of it as well. So it's not, like I say, it's not a super, super mean game, but there are some things in it which in this game, if you just do a few mean things, you can, because of how punishing the game can be, it can really have a huge impact on on the other players. It's probably the least mean game of any of the ones I have. And I had a difficult time coming up with this list because I thought it was going to be, by the time you eliminate games that are designed inherently to be mean or take that games, it was a more difficult list to come up with than I thought it would be. But anyways, that's my number 5, Tricerion.
Yeah, I know you like Tricerion a lot more than I do, but I can definitely see the meanness quotient in that kind of creeping up with stopping people from getting what they need, because time is so tight in Tricerion
Mm-hmm.
that you kind of need everything to kind of fall into place. And if someone else disrupts that, then definitely mean. And I think for my list, I also had a hard time coming up with them. And I think my list is kind of ranked from games where the meanness is fairly low or fairly specialized to my number one game is, I don't know whether it's designed to be mean, but there's a lot more opportunity for me to choose to be mean to you
Right.
than in my number 5.
Right.
But yeah, Tricerion is a good heavy game that's definitely got some ways to mess with your opponents, not directly.
Yeah, and again, you don't have to be. I mean, there's nothing in that game that you have to really specifically try to be mean. It's just a lot of the choices you make are kind of mean because, like I said, even if you're just going to and getting into a space before someone else is, the fact that they get less actions than you do is huge in this game. But also, you can really, I mean, like, because you can burn the shards, I guess, to reduce the price in the marketplace, but also to get the other, I think, to get an extra action or whatever, or maybe it's to change the die. I can't remember. And if you look around and see people don't have a lot of those, well, you can really mess with them by reducing their action. So, anyways, that's my number 5, Dracarion.
So my number 5 is, I don't think inherently it is a mean game, but when I say the name, Dean is probably going to chuckle because he knows exactly why this is on my list. So my number 5.
Wait a minute. Let me guess. Trois?
No, not
Oh,
12.
wow. Okay.
Saloon Tycoon.
It almost made my list. I looked at it.
So Saloon Tycoon is a game from 2015, and I guess if I tell myself, I think I actually do like the game. The concept is everybody
Wow.
is building up their tycoon, their saloon, and it starts off with one little corner building, and you were trying to build up your saloon by getting more things attached to it. And it's actually got a neat 3D aspect to it too. So you have your player board, and the timer from this game are the little wooden blocks that represent building structures. And you'll place those building structures in the four corner of the room, and that means the room is done. But then you can buy another room that goes on top of it. So you're actually building up your saloon, and you can either build up or you can build out, and both ways are good. So there are benefits to do both ways. But there's also people in this game that are going to come to the town, and some of them are good and some of them are bad. And of course, you want the good people to show up in your saloon, and then you want the bad people to go to the other people's saloon. But there are certain cards or people in the deck that allow you to manipulate the people in other people's saloons. And this is where you can come into the meanness, because you have cards that are going to be, at the end of the game, you're going to score 5 points if you have this woman and this man in your saloon, or if you have all men in your saloon, or that type of thing. Other people don't know what it is, but they can kind of judge, oh, you're getting rid of all the women out of your saloon, therefore you have the all men card. So I'm going to push a woman over to your saloon just to mess with you. And that's one of the reasons why this one's kind of lower, because you don't need to do that. And it's not a major component in the game, but it is something you could do, that if you can figure out how other people are trying to score, you can mess with them by sending people around. But you can't do it every round. Like you have to have that ability to move people around. And the game I played reason why I was saying Dean was going to chuckle is because we did play this game in which I think it was Dean, B, myself, and Megan were playing. And I think Megan and I both had the same, you score 5 points if you have this particular person and this particular person in your saloon. So I was able to play a card that took one of the people away from Megan and put them in my saloon. Well, Dean had, B had the same card I did, allowed him to move the same person. He just kind of went, well, I'm going to take him from Graham and give him back to Megan. For no other reason, just because he could. And that, again, that's the meanness of it, that you're able to mess with how other people are going to score. He didn't need to do that. It's not an integral part of the game, but there is the opportunity to do that, which is why it's number 5, but it's a mean game. Definitely gets your blood boiling if that happens to you.
It is, and that his meanness triggered off a 15-minute I'm not sure what I would call it, diatribe, hissy fit, you whatever sucky you want to, yeah, a sucky boo-boo moment by Graham, who I've never seen anyone actually flip a table before, but I think that one would have come close to just like doing the arm sweep and knocking everything off of the board. So it was an enjoyable game up until that point.
I like the concept of Saloon Tycoon. Like, I like the idea of, am I going to build the house or the piece next to it, or am I going to build it vertically? Because you're going to get bonuses both ways, and it's kind of weighing which bonuses you want and which floor you're going to build on, because it's going to give you gold coin, which is one of the currencies in the game. So, like I said, I do enjoy Saloon Tycoon, even with the option that some people could play it mean just to screw me over just so I don't win.
Yeah, and had it been reverse and Graham would have been the person being mean and winning the game, he would have laughed maniacally and said, this is a great design. This is awesome.
Well, because it was like literally the last round of the game.
Yeah.
And I played my card and went, okay, Megan, I'm taking that. I know you and I both need it. Then B was like the last person to take his turn. He's just like, well, I'm going to screw with Graham just because I can. So bang, Graham, you lose the card. It goes back to Megan.
Right. And that's a combination of B being B, B wanting to mess with Graham, and Megan being B's wife. I think it was a combination of those three things that probably prompted that to happen. So yeah, that's a good choice. All right, my number 4 is a game that, again, so it's a 3-player game, and it is a well, it's a competitive, but at times cooperative, semi-cooperative game, and that is Three Kingdoms Redux. Now, I know Graham's not a big fan of this game, but this is a game where it is 3 players and you are playing competitively against each other. And the way it's set up is that I can kind of go, so there's like 3 different little battlefield areas on the outskirts of this board. And one of them is like mine, where Graham and Lella could attack me separately, or I could, I have the opportunity to go against Graham, I have the opportunity to go against Lella. So you're making the choice, who do I want to go against? You can go against both of them, but they're going to be separate battles. It is designed to be combative in that nature, but it does place limits. Like, I can't constantly just pick on Graham. There's only so many flags, I believe they are, that I can have in Graham's territory, and then I'm going to have to shift the focus on Lola. So it's not necessarily a one where it's going to be totally imbalanced by someone just getting hammered on the entire time. So you do have that aspect. There are cards that are in this game where you can play them. I don't remember them being too many where I'm playing them against people. It's more of benefits that they're going to give me. So there's not really that aspect to it. But the cooperative portion of it is the, and I should have looked this up because I don't remember the top of my head. So I believe it's the whoever is the last place player and I guess the second player can cooperatively team up on that turn to basically combine their, I'll call it influence, that they're going to put within that marketplace. So in the marketplace, you're deciding, okay, well, I want to focus on, I want to get bows and arrows or weapons and stuff like that, or I'm gonna go here because I want to be able to improve my agricultural ability, so on and so forth. But it does allow for one of the spaces to where people can combine, and so they can share their influence, combine it together to trigger it off and get a basically it's a better benefit because you don't have to spend as much of your own influence in there. And it can be one where you can, as Graham did in one game, you can kind of screw over the person that thinks that you're going to kind of help them along, and they kind of put you may put a lower tile in there than what your quote unquote partner was thinking, forcing them to burn more of their better tiles. And if they truly want to get that benefit, and the example from Graham did it, I don't think Graham really cared if they got the benefit or not. So he put a low one in there, which forced Eric to have to burn a better, higher tile, which he was not expecting to do, which forced him not to be able to play it somewhere else, or just to not go in there at all and not get the benefit that he was hoping to be able to get the benefit from. So there is, I don't know how often that happens in most games. Um, I haven't played it enough to see if that's kind of a common occurrence. It was a Graham occurrence. So think back to the game he just talked about where he didn't like someone messing with him, and now look at him giggle like a little schoolboy at knowing what he did. So I think this is one of those where there's definitely meanness, because even though I said at the game at the beginning that there's only so many times you can attack one particular player, like you can't just focus on them the entire game. There are times where you definitely feel ganged up in this game, and that's gonna kind of ebb and flow throughout the game, where you're gonna feel really good because you're just banging away on someone else and the other person's banging away on them at the same turn, and then you're gonna feel that same exact thing then going against you. So it can be a little mean in that aspect, but it's a fun game. It's a long game. I don't play it. I think I've played it maybe 3 times total. I think Dan owned it at one time. I don't know if he still does or not. I do like the theme of it, and I actually do enjoy the game, but it's one of those where it probably lasts a lot longer than I would like it to. But anyways, that is Three Kingdoms Redux.
Yeah, I wasn't taken with this game. Played it the once. I do like the idea, as you're saying, uh, the whose neck is on the line kind of rotates kind of each round,
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost always going to be two people ganging up on a third person, but that kind of rotates around. So I may be attacking Dean this round, but next round I got to work with Dean to attack Eric, and then I got to work with Eric to attack. So you're always kind of switching your allegiances. So you're never thinking, let's spend the next 10 rounds doing nothing but getting Dean out of the game. You're thinking, I do want to attack Dean, but I will probably have to work with him later on in the game. So I kind of need some of his resources as well, but not too much. Like I want to hurt him, so I'm better than him, but I also, don't want to hurt him too little so that he can overtake me later on. So it is an interesting dynamic in that game. I've only played it the once and I wasn't taken with it. So my number 4 is a game that you can play completely non you can play completely nice. Never have to do anything mean in this game. But after you've played it for a little while, you realize which routes can really screw people over. And this is the way I play Ticket to Ride, because I've played Ticket to Ride so often that I know most of the cards in the deck. And you're like, oh, you're building from here to here? Bang, bang, I'm taking that route from you. Oh, you have to go around me? Oh, that's too bad. I now, even when I play online, I play the game partly for myself to make sure I'm completing the routes, but I will quite often try and pick routes that I know are one of the main corridors, for example, to make sure I get the main corridor, which means hopefully someone else is going to have to go around and spend more trains and maybe not be able to fulfill their cards. Again, you don't have to play like that. You can play that everybody's just playing their own hand, and it could be by accident that you get in people's ways, or you can play it that in some of the maps that there's an awful lot of cities that kind of go through a funnel point. So you can actively say, I'm going to block off this funnel point so people have to go the long way around. And that's mean. you can stop people from making their routes if they're down on trains and you're like, well, you've got enough trains to get here, so I'm going to stop you to make you go around. And oh, you don't have enough trains. Sorry. It is a game that when we first started playing Ticket to Ride, it never came across my mind to do it that way. But as the game goes on, if you're playing with the same group, I found it gets more and more competitive. Then you start to learn where those funnel points are and how important it is to capture them before someone else does, just so you can make their life more difficult. So that's why it's number 4. Again, you don't have to play like that. It's a very fine, family game that you can play without that extra level to it. But I do enjoy when you do add that extra level to it. As long as everybody knows the game, and you're familiar with it, and you've played it a lot, then you can start saying, okay, I'm now going to start to second guess the cards Dean has. And is there a way I can screw him over by playing? I'm just going to randomly take this route over on this side of the board, not because I need it, but because I think Dean needs it. So that is my number 4, Ticket to Ride.
So when we played this the other day online, we played a couple games. I don't remember you playing it mean. I don't know. I guess I just trounced you so badly that.
Yeah.
Did you play it mean? I don't remember.
Not against you, because I figured your gaming experience is significantly less. I mean, and the tears from the previous games, it's like, oh, fun. I need to throw him a game. So I threw you the Ticket to Ride.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny because that's not a game that I generally play mean. I may play it towards the end, like, okay, I've got a few cubes or a few trains left over, so can I throw them out there to one end the game, but also to screw someone else up? I generally play that one pretty straightforward, just focusing on my own thing. But maybe we should have made this a top 5 list of games we like to play mean.
Yeah, and it could be if I'm playing Ticket to Ride with like my brother or my family members, I would never play it that way. I play it strictly by I'm just going for the cards in my hand. Because again, going back to like B and Megan, we play Ticket to Ride a lot, and we all, played it 50 times. So we knew what cards were in the deck, and we knew that part of the game now was not only do I want to make the most points,
Right.
I want to beat you, and one of the ways to do that is to make you spend more trains and hopefully not be able to get your tickets. So I wouldn't play this all the time. It would have to be with the right group of people, but it does open itself up to that gameplay if you want to play it like that, but there's no reason that you have to play it like that.
All right. Yeah, that's a good choice. All right. My number 3 is a game that, again, you don't necessarily have to play it mean, because I've played it numerous times, and I've played it one where I've not done really anything mean at all. And I've played one where I specifically said, okay, I'm going to be a dick in this game, and I'm just going to be as mean as possible. And that is Affliction Salem 1692. And again, in this game, so it's a action selection slash I call it a very light engine building game. But in this game, it's 2 things. So you have, I want to say you just have 2 workers, and you're going to place these workers. There's like a track of actions. And of course the actions are going to trigger off in linear order. So depending on, when you want to take that turn or when you want to take that action, there's generally a couple of different options on the board of each action. Some of them may get 2 of those actions. Some of them may just get 1. So obviously taking the 2 action may be better. But it also may be farther down the line of when it's going to trigger off. So there's that give and take of what action do I want and when do I want it to trigger off? Okay, well, I want to do this action. I want to be able to, to add someone to my village, I think they call it, or my town circle. And then at the same time, but in order for me to do that, I need to make sure that we put enough accusations on that person to be able to do it. So I need to make sure this happens before this. So there's always that choice. So the meanness really comes into, again, kind of beating someone to the action that is going to be very popular. But I wouldn't say you don't really have a choice in that matter. In order to win the game, you just got to be able to get to the right spot at the right time and get that action done, or take the first player marker, or take the, what they call the little protection marker that you have out there. Where the meanness comes in and how you can be mean in this game is As over the course of the game, everyone's throwing, there's like a common area out on the board where you got two different rows of cards. And these are common villagers that you may want to bring into your circle because they're part of your family tree, sort of thing, and they will give you some benefits, some scoring benefits. And then there are people out there that you want to see get arrested, and you want, because you get points by arresting people from that particular family. And so everyone over the course of the game is going to be throwing accusations out on these different characters that are on the board. And depending on which character they all have a certain level of how many accusations they need against them to be able to be arrested. So do you want to try to get these people, save them and get them into your circle before they get arrested? Or do you want to try to get, this person, because if two or three people are throwing accusations out, I want to get this person arrested before that person because I want the points, sort of thing. So there's that portion of the game. You can play this, I guess people start adding people into their circle. You can really screw with them by throwing, is it still accusations against them, or I can't remember what the other one is called, the when you're putting stuff on them when they're in the circle. I think it's still accusations.
I think so. It's been a while since I played.
Yeah. But you can mess with people that are already kind of protected in people's circles. And when you do that, if you mess with them, you're going to stop, if they have a special ability, you're going to stop them from being able to use that special ability. And I believe you can also steal people out of other people's circles as well, depending on who it is. And I've played this game where I've done nothing but simply mess with people with stealing people out of their circle or shutting down their special powers so that they can't trigger off. Because there's a little bit of engine building in this where the different characters in the game have different special traits, and you get some of those that kind of daisy chain together, and they can be pretty potent. And I've played this times where I haven't messed with anyone's circle. I've just simply played it straightforward. I'm going to put accusations out on the people on the common board. I'm going to arrest them and try to build up my points that way. And it can, when you start messing with people within other people's circles, it forces them to either just suck it up and take it, or it forces them to spend an action to steal that. I'm going to protect someone within my circle because I can't afford to lose their special ability. And that doesn't sound like much, but you only got two workers. And if you've got to, spend one of them to get that protection marker, that's pretty impactful within the game. And then of course you can also, you can steal the first player marker, that sort of thing. But the again, it's one of those games that's designed where you don't have to play it mean. It's fun to play it mean, for sure, to mess with the people, but you don't have to. And maybe that depends on the cards that are coming out. Maybe that depends on the because if I'm playing whichever family it is, and I get a bunch of cards coming out that are beneficial to me, if I get them in my circle, then that's what I want to focus on, getting people into my circle. And then maybe people are going to pick against me. But if I'm playing a family where the people coming out in the common area are ones that I want to see arrested, then I can just focus on arresting them and not have to mess as much with people, with other people's circles. So you can play it either way. I haven't played the game in maybe a year and a half. And, but I do enjoy it from the standpoint of you have the option. Yeah, I can be a jerk. And like Graham said, if I'm playing with a bunch of new people, I'm probably not going to be a jerk, about it because,
really?
Well, I said probably, but because I think there's enough in this game where, for if someone was newer to gaming, with just kind of realizing how important that action track is, and getting the right spot and kind of getting the synchronicity between the actions, that if you start messing with them too much, it may take a little bit out of the game. But if it's a group that's played it numerous times or whatever, the last time I played it was played it back to back at a convention a couple years ago. And the one game I just played normal, and the other game I'm like, I'm just gonna see what happens. And it was really fun. But I'm not sure everyone else enjoyed it nearly as much as I did, with being mean. But anyways, that's my number 3, Affliction, Salem 1692, which I guess is only fitting that'd be a mean game if it's about Salem 1692.
Yeah, I enjoy the game, but it's been a while since I played it.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 3 is, the meanness is kind of built into the game. This is called Azul Stain, and it's specifically the stained glass of Sintra. So Azul, the stained glass of Sintra, if you played any of the Azul games, the basic mechanism is there is a series of circles in the middle of the board, and you randomly draw and put pieces on them, different color pieces. And on your turn, you're going to be taking from one of these dishes, you're going to be taking all of one color, and all the rest of them are going to go into the middle. But at some point, you have to be taking someone has to take that last bit of pieces. And quite often what happens is it cuts to the point when there's like 6 yellow pieces in the middle of the board that no one really wants to take. Because if you take more than what you need, you have to put them in the broken glass thing, which is going to be negative points, which of course you don't want. So the meanness comes into the timing, because one of the things that they did with the Sintra was there's a worker that you have that gets to move down your board. And when you, on your turn, you can move them down the board, or you can basically forfeit your turn and remove them back to the beginning. But wherever your worker is the place that you're going to be putting those new pieces of glass you just picked up. So if you don't want to pick up that whole bunch of yellows in the middle, then maybe you reset your person to the beginning. Hopefully the next person is going to take all the yellow, and then once all the color pieces are gone, you then reset by drawing new pieces out on all the different dishes. But then when they also reset their person to the beginning one, and then the person after that resets to the beginning one, you're like, oh, it's coming back around to me. And once your worker's at the first window, you can't reset them anymore. You have to take the pieces. So sometimes you could say, well, there's only 2 colors left. I could use one, but I don't want to be stuck with all those other pieces. So I'm going to forfeit my turn and reset, hoping that other people are kind of forced to take those pieces. So the meanness comes in to try to time your moves to make sure that you're sticking someone with all those useless pieces to give them a whole bunch of negative points. Again, it's part of the game that someone's going to have to do it. And the meanness comes into just making sure that it's not you, which I really enjoy that piece. This is, of all the Azules I've played, this is my favorite one, because it does give you that ability to reset your worker. So hopefully you can delay it enough so that when it's your turn next, there's going to be a whole bunch of fresh new pieces out and you won't be stuck with everything. But I have been stuck with 7 purple things that I didn't need at all and dumped them all into my broken glassing at a whole bunch of negative points at the end of the game. So I really enjoy it. It's got a little more meat to it than your standard Azul. All of them have this mechanism of someone's going to be stuck with those pieces. But this one, the ability to reset means that you can't math it out. You can't say 2 rounds from now, I'm going to be stuck with all those pieces, because you don't know who's going to be resetting their worker at what time, which throws off the whole cadence of people just taking pieces. So this is my number 3, Azul Stained Glass of Sintra.
Yeah, that's kind of a what I would call like a meanness management game, because there's no way around it. I mean, really, unless people, I mean, I've only played it, I think, twice. And just the way the game is, or the boards are set up, you're always going to have tiles that you can't use. I mean, theoretically, someone on any given turn, there's going to be someone getting screwed over with tiles that they can't use. So yeah, that's a good one. That is kind of for a system that people say, Azul's such a great introductory game and it's a family game and everything else. That one does take it up a notch or so. Yeah. Okay, my number 2 is a game so this is a Euro game, and this is one where the meanness is built into it. I don't know if there's any way you could play it and not, at some point in time, I guess you could choose not to be mean, but you couldn't prevent other people from being mean to you. And that is Carson City. Carson City is it's a Euro game. It's a worker placement game where you're building your stake in Carson City, and you're going to be buying tiles to build buildings and placing little road tiles out to kind of connect your building. And maybe you're gonna put a mine out, so where you place that mine, if it's next to mountains, you get make more money off of it. But where this game gets mean is that every round someone's going to pick a character to use, and then you're going to place your workers out on these different actions at the top of the board. And there, it's another one of those where they're gonna trigger off in kind of a linear fashion. So beating some people to a certain spot is crucial, but because only one person can be there. Many of the other actions, multiple people can go to it, but only one person's going to get to do the action. And that's where the meanness comes in, because if Graham goes to an area and I go to an area where, because we both want the same action, but only one of us gets to do it, then we're going to fight for it. We're going to have a duel. And you're going to have to factor in how many guns you have. And so accumulating guns is important. And there are spaces maybe that are going to trigger off before this fight's going to happen, where I can add guns to my stock. So I take the spot where I get 3 guns because I know I'm going to have a duel later on with Graham for here. Where it gets really mean, I mean, so that's built in, but where it gets really mean is that if Graham loses that duel, he gets nothing for that action. And losing actions in this game is brutal. And then you have the option of, let's say I build a bank, and I think maybe if you can do it for ranching as well. Someone can come out and decide to rob my bank. Someone can decide to, I think it's for the ranching, where they can kind of raid my ranch. I guess they're stealing my cattle or whatever. So it's not just, do I need to worry about is someone going to go to the same spot I'm going to on this board? And can I win the duel? But I also got to worry about what they're going to do to my properties that are out on the board as well. It's a very mean Euro game. And like I said, you can choose not to be mean yourself in it. I don't know how well you would do, but you can't, the only way you could really prevent anyone from being mean to you is if you just have enough guns to where it's not worth their time to attack you or to want to duel you. It's, I don't know. It's when I was looking it up and I was thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I enjoyed it. And I looked at the designer. I'm like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. Because the same designer that did Twa. And I don't know if Twa is on Graham's list. I would think that he thinks that game's mean because you can steal people's dice. But here's the interesting thing about that, and I didn't really make the connection till then. He's also the designer of Ginkgopolis. So you may not want to go buy Ginkgopolis after all, because I don't think you've liked the other 2 designs so far. But anyway, so that is my number 2, Carson City. I think for a game that is a Euro game, might be one of the meaner Euro games out there.
So I believe when you do the duel, when someone else goes to the same action spot you do, you have the guns, but also don't you roll the die?
Yeah, there's a die in there as well.
Yeah, and that's essentially how I didn't realize there were so many zeros on a D6. Because it seemed that every time I got in a duel, I lost, and I was losing like an action almost a significant amount of time, because I would go somewhere and someone else would do the same thing. Or I'd say, okay, well, I have like 5 guns. There's no way I'm going to lose. So I put my person in there trying to get Dean off the action spot, and we roll the thing, and Dean rolls like a 6, and I roll a 1, and it's like, oh, and he's got the 1 extra gun. So I guess I lose, and my person's gone.
Yeah.
So I've only ever played it once. I've played a con copy of the game, but I own the deluxe version of this game. I only played Twa once, and I own Twa. I didn't like that one either. So I was thinking about getting Ginkgopolis, and now I'm having second thoughts.
And I don't know if Ginkgopolis plays the same way because I haven't played it. I'm going to pick up my copy later today, but I'm going to venture to guess, same designer. So there's got to be a little bit of meanness in there.
Yeah. So, yes. So my number 2 is a game that I know Dean likes, but he has a hard time wrapping his head around it. And this is one of the few games I've ever had my wife yell at me for this game. This is a game called Heaven and Ale. So Heaven and Ale is about, you're a priest or a monastery brewing beer. There are, you have a fields which you're going to be planting things, and you're either going to be planting them on the day side or the light side, which is going to get your resources, or the dark side, which is going to get you money. So it's always a play of, you need both of them. So where you're going to be placing them is going to depend on how you want to place it out. You also have tracks on your board that are going to going to track things like your water and your wheat and your brewmaster, and I think there's a fourth one, that you're all trying to manipulate these tracks to get them as far as possible, because how far your brewmaster goes is going to be kind of end of game scoring. Because what you're doing is you're at the end of the game, you're going to look at where all those tracks are, and then you're going to be determining whatever your lowest track is the points you're going to be scoring. But you're allowed to manipulate your other tracks based on where your brewmaster is. So if your brewmaster is at the very beginning, you can trade 5 for 1. But if you can get all the way up to the top, you can trade 1 for 1. So you can kind of shift your lowest one up by spending your highest ones to kind of see where they meet. And that's how many points you're going to get for that. But where the meanness comes in is going to be your action selection. So the other part of the board is the action selection, and it's basically like a big circle. You have a start and you have an end to it. Everybody's got a pawn there, and you're going to be laying out tiles on the different areas of, what you can buy, what type of resources you're going to be buying to add to your board. On your turn, you're allowed to move as far as you want along the board. But as soon as you reach the start again, basically your round's done. And you have to wait for everybody to come around it. But you are actively taking things away from other people. So if I know Dean needs to get water and he needs to move his water person on, or he's not going to be able to score it, I'm going to make for damn sure I'm taking the water option when it's my turn. But I'm having to think, I'm also giving up all these other actions. Is it really worth, like Dean was talking in your first game, is it for carry on? Do I give up a really, really good action that's going to benefit me a lot, but it's not going to hurt anybody? Or do I take a lesser action that's still good for me, but it's going to hurt other people a lot too? Because there's also going to be scoring tiles, and only the people that claim them can score them. So if I see Dean and I are both getting a lot of, our wheat is really high, and there's one of the scoring options to have high wheat, I could probably go around again to maybe get some other things I really want. But I think I'm going to take the scoring tile so Dean can't score his wheat. So you're constantly looking at what other people are doing well at and trying to get the scoring tiles to stop them from being able to score it. Now, of course, you're not going to take scoring tiles which do you no good, but you are probably going to be taking the scoring tiles that you can score some points, but it's going to take away a lot of points from someone else. So there's definitely that meanness. And we have played this game. I think, Dean, you were in this game when Lella yelled at me. We were like the last round of the game. And Lala's like, don't you dare take that spot. Don't you dare take that spot. What, you mean this spot here? Doink. And she got really mad because she'd been building up one thing to score, but she kept on building it up and building it up and building it up. And then she's going to take the scoring action. So I saw her build up and build it up and build it up and went, okay, doink, I'll take the scoring thing. Thank you very much. And she was so mad at me for that. Again, you don't have to play it like that, but I think it's kind of inherent in the game that you need to be watching what other people are doing and maybe slow them down or take away some points from them. So you want to get points, but you also do want to be taking points away from other people. So that's why it's my number 2, mainly because Lala yelled at me about this game. And we both remember it, but we both enjoy playing it. And I really enjoy having a nail. And I'd like the option to be able to do that, to say, I need to be taking these points away from you. So you're not going to blow me out because you have really high this, whatever else. I'm going to take it away from you first. And the thing I really like about having a nail is you have like a high point one and you have a lower point one and then nothing. So if I can see you are going to get a lot of points for one certain thing, I can take the high point thing. So it still leaves you some points because you can take the low point one as well, or instead. So I'm not stopping you from scoring any points. I'm just taking some points away from you, which one of the things I enjoy. So I may have left it too long to get the most points, but I can still hopefully get the second place one and be able to take that tile. Now, if I leave it too long, someone else might take the second place one. I get no points, but that's my own fault. But it's that kind of push and pull of when am I going to pull the trigger to get those scoring things, and can I take it away from someone else? So that is my number 2, Heaven and Nail.
Yeah, that's one where I always forget about the scoring tiles until other people start collecting them, and then it's like a mad rush, like everyone's taking that as their action. And I can't remember, they're scoring tiles, but then they're also like milestone kind of tiles where you can't take it unless you meet that requirement. So yeah, I guess I'm so focused on trying to figure out how the hell to move my different people up the track or whatever, because I never seems like I I always have like one or two that I just like, okay, I haven't moved them like the entire game. Maybe I should just start playing the game really mean and not trying to worry about actually doing anything else. I couldn't score any less than what I score in the normal game. But I'm horrible at the game, but I really do like it. And it's one of those, it even made my top 100. I don't know why, because I totally am sucky at that game. But I think it's because I do so bad at it that I always want to go back. I'm like, and try to figure it out because I'm like, this game cannot be that hard. But for whatever reason, it's just, it does not connect with me in there. So, but I thought about it originally, but then I thought, oh, I don't really know if it's a mean game, but it's mainly because maybe I just don't play it mean because I'm just so focused on trying to get what I want. But yeah, there are times where I'm like, okay, really, you took that monk. That's the monk that that I needed, and I don't know if people are taking them on purpose because, like you said, it's one of those where is it more beneficial for me to screw Graham over and take this? I mean, yeah, I get something out of it, but it's really going to hurt him if he gets nothing out of it. And that game, at least, it's a little easier to do that because you can pace how fast your turn is going to end by how far you move.
Yeah.
So I don't. I think maybe I've ever once where I've leapt really far around the track just to make sure that I got something. It wasn't ever to hurt somebody else, but it's like, okay, I need that, whatever the white resource. I need that token um, in order to do whatever I want to do. So that's a good choice. All right, so my last game is a game that I don't believe like there's nothing in the game. There's no spaces to go on the board. There's no cards you're going to play that are inherently that are actually mean at all. This game is mean for two reasons. One, it's mean because it's a punishing game if you do anything poorly, any planning poorly, any choices poorly, the game itself is going to be mean to you. But it's mean just because of how you have to play the game. And it's a slow burn. It doesn't start out mean because you've got enough space to do what you want to do. But over the course of the game, it gets meaner and meaner, and that is Antiquity. So Antiquity is one of those games where you start out, you're in your little area, no one's bothering you. If you make bad choices, that's on you. But as the game goes along and you start to expand your territory, this all comes down to basically zones of control. And if I can cut you off from being able to get to a different part of the board, you're really screwed. If someone does it to me, I'm really screwed. If I can get to an area where to claim stake to whatever the resource is and be able to lock down an area of that resource now that you can't get, you're dead in this game because it all comes down to resources. Because if you run out of certain ones, you can't produce or you can't feed or whatever. And it comes down to being able to basically those zones of controls block everyone else out from being able to expand. And then as with that happening, the pollution starts to take over and you're dead meat. So I don't. I mean, there's nothing really in this game that you're going to do on purpose other than in order to play the game well and to play it correctly, you have to play it mean. You have to try to cut people off and lock them out and prevent them from spreading and prevent their zones of controls from getting any bigger than what they are.
And it warms my heart that you have a splatter on your list.
I know it is a number one too.
There's two levels of meanness to this game. One is the cutting people off from getting the resources they need so you can get the resources, which is kind of a self-helping thing while hurting other people.
Sure.
But in Antiquity, when you build your cathedral, you dedicate it to a certain person, and that will determine how you're going to win the game. Well, one of the people you can dedicate it to is to cut someone else completely off, to surround their city. Sure. So you are actively going, again, that's an option. You don't have to pick that person, but you can pick that person. So you can change the game from being mean at this level to, no, I'm coming after you. I need to completely cut you off and surround you. And if I've done that, I win the game. You don't have to go to that meanness level, but there is an underlying meanness eventually in that game that as you start to slash and burn and you need to get rid of all your pollution, that you will start cutting people off to say, I don't want you to be in my forest. I don't want you to mine the gold. I don't want you to be able to fish in this river. So I'm going to push you off. So there is
Hmm.
that level of meanness, but you do get to crank up that meanness level if you want.
Yeah, and it's one where as the game goes on, it gets meaner and meaner, and it's almost one of those where it's a game where every choice you make, it's almost like you're being mean to yourself because every choice you make has some sort of ramifications, with either pollution or, okay, yeah, I want this building. If I put this building in, then that prevents me from being able to do this building unless I build another city. And then, or, well, I couldn't, I got to put a grave out, or whatever. So, that the little player board where you're putting your different buildings or those polynomial pieces, there's everyone you place is another decision that's going to affect you somewhere down the road
Yeah.
by limiting something else that you can put in there. So it's a mean game by design because it's punishing. It's a mean game by cutting your opponents off and preventing them from growth. And it's a mean game with every choice you make for yourself. It's one of those, if you're into what's the is it self-flagellation, is that the term? This would be a perfect game for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my second favorite Splotter. And just barely. I really, really enjoy Antiquity. I think it's even still in my top 10 games of all time. Food Chain Magnet's my number one Splotter, and Antiquity is kind of just behind it in how much I like it, because you have complete control over what you do, but it's hard. But there is also is the player interaction, just like the same type of player interaction in Food Chain Magnet. You start off with your own little area, but eventually you're going to have to start competing against other people for whatever resources as part of the game. So it works really well. You are isolated for a while, but eventually you're going to have to start having to fight people for different areas of the board. So good choice.
All right, what's your number one?
So my number one is a game that, if I look back at it before I played it on No Strings Attached, I wouldn't think of it as an overly mean game, because you kind of gloss over what you're going to do. This is a Feld game, and the game is called Bora Bora. So Bora Bora, you are a generic Polynesian tribe, I believe. I don't think you are any particular group, but you are. It does take place in the islands of Bora Bora, and you are trying to do a whole bunch of things like you are in typical Feld. You're trying to get priests. You're trying to expand to the different islands. You're trying to get a collection of necklaces and jewelry and things like that. So all kind of standard Feld things. But the meanness comes in the dice play for this one. And this is the one where the meanness is almost kind of built into the game, but it's not what I think if I just said, oh, this is a Feld Bora Bora game, people, how can that be mean? Because you roll the dice, and the die value dictates how strong an action you're going to take. So if I'm going to hire someone, if I want to bring someone else into my tribe, there's a range of 1 to 6. So if I put a 3 on there, I can only pick numbers 1, 2, and 3. I can't pick the 4, 5, and 6 people. But whenever you take an action, you have to put a die less than the lowest die that's already in that value. So if I see Dean rolls 3 6s, I know he needs to get someone else into his tribe, I can put my 3 on there. There's no way he can put his 6 on that track, because I've now basically said, you cannot place your 6 on this track because you have to play a die that's less than me. There are certain ways around it. There are some gods that you can go that allow you to place a die that's equal to or higher. But fundamentally, just because I roll all low means I don't get as strong as actions, but I'm going to stop people from taking those actions. Because you can keep on going there as long as you can place a lower die there. So if you roll all high and I roll low and I get to go first, I'm going to be looking at what you need the most for. And I'm going to make damn sure I put my low die there so you can't take it. So it's an awful lot of, it's not only action selection, it's action denial, because I'm stopping you from taking that action. And everything, and this is a fairly tight game in which every round you need to be completing one of your goals. Because if you don't, you're going to get negative points. And if you complete all your goals at the end of the game, you're going to get a bonus. So if at any time I can stop you from getting one of your goals, it benefits me. Everything you do on the board is going to get you points. So there's no bad choice for me. But I'm going to make sure that as I'm placing my dice, I'm going to make sure that I'm stopping you from being able to take what you need to do, which is why I find Bora Bora, it's a very solid Euro game that definitely has an aspect that you have to be mean in this. So a lot of the other games I was talking about, you could be mean if you want. Bora Bora, you need to be mean to other people. It's kind of built into it. You could play it completely non-mean, but it's very, very hard to do. Sometimes you're just inadvertently mean. You both need to put a priest on your track. Well, my highest die is a 3, your lowest die is a 4. Just by fundamentally putting my 3 there is stopping you from placing your 4. And as the rounds go on, I'm watching to see, are you getting close to being able to get um, one jewelry every round? Because again, you get a bonus if you can buy jewelry for all. I think it's 7 rounds the game. If you end up at the game with 7 pieces of jewelry, you get a bonus. Well, if I can stop you from being able to get a jewelry, I'm going to make sure I can do that. Or if I can stop you from getting your priest up, I'm going to do that. I stop you from going to all the different islands, which is going to score you points. I'm going to do that. So I'm looking at how to score me points, but I'm also making sure that what I'm doing is going to hurt at least one other person around the table. So just by the nature of that dice placement, it is a mean game. So that is why it's my number one. I really enjoy the game, and the meanness is there from the start. That round one, you need to be mean to other people. So that is Bora Bora.
Yeah, that's actually I just bought that game when I was in California. I found it at a hobby shop and I grabbed it off the shelf and I squeezed it and I let a little squee. I'm like, "Oh, you're mine. I finally found you." So, yeah, it's in the vehicle. But someone might be thinking, "Well, how can you not have a game like um was it is it At the Gates of Loang, or is that the one that, or is it Year of the Dragon?"
You're the dragon's mean. You're the dragon. The game is mean to you.
Okay, it's
You're
mean to you. So, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it's the 12 months, and every month something bad is going to happen, and it's just who can best mitigate that badness.
Yeah.
This one is more of, if I have a 6 and a 3 and you have 2 6s, and I know you and I both want an action, I could put my 6 there and maybe give you the option to place one of your other dice, but no, I'm going to place my 3. I'm going to intentionally be mean to you just by placing that die.
Gotcha. I haven't played it, so I'm really surprised that Trois wasn't on your list.
I put games on my list that I actually like,
Oh,
and
snap.
I don't like Trois, so it is a mean, but it's at a point where I enjoy playing these games on my list, even though you can be mean to other people, but I still fundamentally enjoy the game. I find Trois, I just didn't enjoy my plays of it.
Gotcha.
And I think it's partly the meanness and partly just the game itself. It
Yeah.
didn't click with me.
Well, that's cool. At least I finally got you to admit that you do like Saloon Tycoon. So I have the expansion for it. So now we can play it with the expansion.
I wouldn't mind playing it again. I think I've finally released my inner demons over that game.
Just as long as it's not with Megan and B, right? No. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this episode. I think the housekeepers are knocking on the door. My late checkout has arrived, so I'm going to wrap this thing up so I can head on down to. Well, I say head home, but I'm going to Miniature Market first. And I'm going to ravage that Ding and Dent area.
Priorities.
Well, yeah. I mean, whatever. It's fair. They haven't seen me in 4 months. One more day is not going to matter. A couple more hours. So. Anything you want to add?
I want to quickly add, people check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/bgbuffet. We're posting more stuff there. And also in conjunction with that, it's also the YouTube channel. So we're doing a lot more video. If you're listening to this podcast, we are going to be posting the video of this podcast as well with some pictures of the games we were talking about. That is on YouTube, a Board Game Buffet channel there. We're doing 4 different shows, all video wise. 2 of them are for patrons only, and 2 of them will be for everybody. So if you can, I know times are tight right now. If you can support us on Patreon, we'd support that, and hopefully you enjoy the content we're putting there just for our Patreon backers. But also check out our YouTube channel for the video version of this podcast and the 2 other shows that we're doing that are going to be free for everybody. Patrons get the access to them first, but they will eventually be available for everybody to view. So yeah, check us out, patreon.com/bgbuffet, and check us out on YouTube at Board Game Buffet.
Yeah, and please also, for those that are listening to this in a podcast form, last episode and this episode, we did the video recording at the same time, and let us know if the sound quality is still good, or if it's a big drop off. It's hard to kind of see from the editing side how it's going to translate into how it's going to sound when it actually hits the airwaves. So let us know if there's anything glaring or any big drop off or anything like that as well.
Oh,
So
one other thing. April 17th, Saturday, 8 p.m., we're having another werewolf game. If people want to join, we've had 2 really good games so far. We're looking to get a couple more people. We're looking for maybe another 5-6 people to join to kind of get more werewolves in it. So send a note off to Dean, an email off to Dean that you're interested in playing. Again, it's going to be Saturday, April 17th, 8 p.m. Let us know if you want to join that. So far, it's going well. People seem to be enjoying it. So hopefully you can join us for a werewolf game.
yeah, so if you want to jump in on that or just send an email in general, you can send it to boardgamebuffetpodcast@gmail.com. And then we will get back with you on that as well. But I think that's going to wrap up this episode. Number 88 is in on the books. And next month, I think technically it'll be the 4-year anniversary of the podcast. So not that that necessarily is going to be anything special, but just throwing that out there. But anyways, as always, please take care of yourselves and your loved ones. See ya.
See ya.